remember the year it happened, the year the river wept. Our village, Ntembe, had always been blessed by the great Kuyu River. It was the river that gave us life, filling our clay pots with fresh water, feeding our crops, and guiding the fishermen to their daily catch. But that year, something changed. It started with the disappearance of Atieno, the only daughter of old Mama Juma. Atieno was like the river itself, bright, strong, and full of life. She was the kind of girl who greeted elders with both hands and laughed with her whole body. But one morning, as the mist still clung to the trees, she was gone. Mama Juma was the first to raise the alarm. She ran from hut to hut, her wrapper slipping from her thin shoulders, her voice cracking with panic. "Have you seen Atieno? She went to the river. She went to fetch water, but she has not returned." A search party was quickly formed. The men, with their machetes and spears, led the way. The women followed, whispering prayers to the ancestors. We scoured the river banks, calling her name, listening for the sound of her laughter, for anything. But the river gave us nothing. Then, after 3 days, the elders gathered beneath the great baobab tree. It was said that when the river took something, it was because the spirits were displeased. The village's chief diviner, Baba Omari, threw bones upon a woven mat and closed his eyes. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. "The river is angry," he said. "A great wrong has been done." Whispers ran through the crowd. Had someone offended the river spirits? Had a promise been broken? Then old Mama Juma stepped forward. Her eyes, once full of life, were now dark pools of sorrow. I made a vow," she admitted, her voice trembling. "When Atieno was born, she was weak. So I promised the river spirits that if she lived, she would belong to them." A gasp spread through the crowd. It was an old belief. Some children were born marked by the spirits, and parents sometimes made desperate vows to save them. But if the promise was broken, the spirits would collect their debts. "The river has claimed her," Baba Omari said. "We must ask for mercy." That night, a great ceremony was held. Drummers beat rhythms that echoed into the forest. The women wove garlands of white flowers, the color of peace, and the men prepared offerings, milk, honey, and a white goat. Mama Juma stood at the river's edge, her hands shaking as she poured milk into the water. "Forgive me," she wept. "I did not want to lose my daughter." The next morning, something strange happened. A fisherman found Atieno's water pot, unbroken, floating on the river. But Atieno was never seen again. From that day, the villagers whispered that Atieno had become one with the river, her spirit dancing in the currents, her laughter carried by the wind. And sometimes, at dusk, when the river was calm, we swore we could hear her singing, a soft, sweet melody that made the waters shimmer like gold. And so the river was no longer just a giver of life. It was also a keeper of promises.